Hello everyone! For a long time, I really wanted to make this video to share my thoughts about Istanbul or in general Turkey actually, about the things that I like and why not also dislike about the country. And I don't know, for a long time I was thinking about it, but I didn't have the chance for making this video. And finally today I'm gonna give you my opinions about the country. And I know nobody asked, but I really want to share my experience. In case that you don't know, I'm a Mexican living in Turkey for the past 7 years. In Istanbul, I have been living for 5, 6 years, and before I was living in another little city in the Black Sea region. It is called Ordu, a very small and lovely city, which, by the way, if you haven't visited, I recommend you to go because you will love it. Small, but you will love it. And finally, let's go with the things that I dislike. And don't get me wrong, this doesn't mean that I hate the country, or please don't tell me, like as I have read in many other Facebook groups of people just trying to share their experience and trying to tell others how they feel, and immediately some people are telling them like, so if you don't like it, go back to your country. It's not like that. We all have the right to express our feelings towards something. Of course, not everything is a fairy tale. Everybody likes something, but also you must dislike something else. Those are just little things. That doesn't mean that we hate the country, because it is not like that. I love the country, but of course there are those little things that I cannot adjust myself yet, or that I just cannot like them. So I'm gonna share my honest my honest review about my thoughts of the country, and specifically in Istanbul. What are those little things that I dislike? So let's start with my first dislike on Istanbul, and this is that everybody is in a rush and the city is quite chaotic. And I know, as in any other major city in the world, as any mega city, of course every mega city will be like that. You will be in a rush, you will be running from your work back home and vice versa and so on. I totally understand this. But this is something that I cannot get used to it. Sometimes I just want to take it slow, like slow down, but it just, or even sometimes you just need to ask somebody about, I don't know, where is this place, and they just don't stop and help you, you know? I mean, I don't know, it just, everybody is in a rush. I totally understand that, but sometimes it's a little bit too much. And as somebody who is coming from a very small city in Mexico, of course this change was like huge for me, and it is the moment that I cannot adjust to it properly, but I know within time I will get used to it. But of course this is normal. Some people, maybe they come from Mexico City, for example, or from Los Angeles, New York, and they come to Istanbul, so it's a very similar how can I say, like a very similar city. But in my case, I come from a very small city, and then coming to Istanbul is like, whoa, okay, hold your horses. Number two, okay, this is something that really stresses me so much, even when I'm at home. And of course, because right now I'm mostly working from home, and sometimes I need to do voice recordings, and most of the time I need to be like in a place that is not too noisy. But if you have been in Istanbul, or if you live in Istanbul, you will understand what I try to say. Everywhere is so noisy. It doesn't matter where you are, in the toilet, in your room, it doesn't matter. Everywhere there's a lot of traffic. But the cars here, I don't know why the drivers, the Turkish drivers, they honk at all times. This is something that really took me by surprise, because I remember, like in Mexico, we don't really do that unless it's necessary, like they honk their cars. But when you come here, they are just honking. And I remember when I first came to Turkey, I was like, what happened? I mean, did I do something, or I don't know what happened? So I was getting quite confused. And yeah, I mean, that's something that I dislike a lot, like how much they honk their cars. Number three, the driving culture in Turkey. And yes, I don't know, probably if you come from any European country, even from the US, you will notice there is a huge gap between the culture there in driving and the driving culture in Turkey. Here, even though you will see a cross lines so pedestrians can cross, and even at schools, where we all know it's logic that at schools we must stop and let the little kids or the students cross the street. cars, that's what happens. Cars must stop. But here, they will not do it. They will just keep driving, they will honk, and they will tell them to hurry up, and so on. So this is something that I just cannot get used in Istanbul, in Turkey in general, because even I remember the first time when I arrived here, I thought, like, of course I was checking like to both sides before crossing the street, but all of a sudden a car came and I almost had a little accident there. And yeah, this is probably one of the things that most of foreigners living here have a bit of trouble with, because it can get a bit difficult. So they just drive so fast and they don't stop. And even if there is a green light for us to cross and they just want to cross, also the motorcycles, they are just everywhere. Even sometimes I need to look at the sky and see if a motorcycle is not coming from there, because really sometimes it can get a bit crazy. So that is something that I dislike as well. Number 4. Yes, Istanbul is a gorgeous city. I love it. It's like a fairy tale. But also, for example, in my case, I love walking if it's on a straight land, for example. But Istanbul, it has a lot of hills. It is very sloppy as well. And if you put me to walk on sloppy areas, then I'm dead. So this is something that I do not like. I do not like, because I just get tired so easily, and then I cannot breathe and it gets difficult for me. So that is something that sometimes I do not like about Istanbul. So even if I see some sloppy area, I rather take in a minibus and then after we pass that, then I can keep going on. But I just don't like sloppy areas. Number 5, the hot weather of Istanbul in summer. Yes, it is too hot, and this is something that my body, I haven't get used to it yet. After 6 years of being here in Istanbul, this is something that it is so difficult. And yeah, I don't like winter either, but it's just the summer here is just extreme because of the humidity. In Mexico, in my city, we are used to having temperatures during the summer of 40, even 45 degrees Celsius. But the difference is that it is a dry weather. There is a big desert as well, so that makes it dry. But here it's just humidity. So even though we reach 28 to 30 degrees Celsius in summer, the humidity makes it feel impossible to breathe. Sometimes I cannot go out during the day because, no, I mean, I feel like if I'm melting. So yeah, that is something that I also dislike, the weather in summer in Istanbul, humidity. Number 6. Unfortunately, the beautiful city of Istanbul is not bicycle friendly. And if you come here and if you want to live here and if you love riding bicycles, there are some special areas where you can do it, especially on any seaside. There will be very, very long roads where you can easily and freely ride your bikes. But if you want to use it as a transportation mean, let's say from your home to work, then you will struggle here because, first of all, as I told you before, the Turkish culture in driving, it's just something else. So first of all, they are not going to respect you, and there is just so much traffic. So I do not recommend using a bicycle as a transportation mean. So yeah, I mean, this is something that I would love to buy a bicycle, but I just don't do it because I'm so afraid of that. Number 7. This is specifically about Istanbul, and the city every day, like every season, it's getting more and more and more crowded. I mean, this is a city where a lot of people is immigrating to lately, and I know because from many other countries, especially people coming from the US or from the European Union, they find much more affordable living in Turkey than in their own countries. So a lot of people is coming here to Istanbul, and that it's like just making it a lot. So right now you will find much more traffic, and well, it just the city is getting much more crowded. So that is something that also I just don't like too much, but it's also good to see more diversity in the city as well. And also many Turkish people living in smaller cities in the country, they are also coming to Istanbul because they are coming here to study or to find a better job. So that is one of the main reasons why Istanbul specifically is getting more crowded every day, not only with foreign people, but also with the locals. Number 8. This is something that, for example, when I was living in the Black Sea region in Turkey, in Ordu, this is something that I loved the most. And it was that it was green everywhere, just the mountains. It was much fresher. You could feel the breeze. It was so nice living there. But here in Istanbul, unfortunately, it's just like a building jungle. It's very hard to find green areas. And because, I mean, yeah, of course, like the city is growing more and more and more, so more and more buildings are being built. So it is quite hard to find those green areas nowadays. Of course, if you go to the seaside, or there are some other little oases that we call it, like Atatürk Arboretum, or some forest like Kemerburgaz or Belgrade, then there you will find some areas, but those are a bit far, and like people living on the Asian side or in the center of Istanbul and without a car can sometimes get a bit difficult going there. But yeah, that is something that I would love to see more, a bit more of green areas and parks for people just to go sit and breathe the freshness of the trees. Number 9, as a non-smoker, this is something that, wow, it's been so hard for me getting used to it. And because here, I mean, Turkey, it's just like one cigarette. So mostly everybody smokes. I mean, probably it will be strange trying to find one person who doesn't smoke than finding those ones that are smokers. So, I mean, even at restaurants, like literally everywhere, you will find somebody smoking. For example, I don't like when I go to a restaurant. That's why I prefer getting like indoor places, because it is not allowed smoking inside. But if you cannot find place, then you have to sit outside, and usually you don't know what you're tasting, if your food or the next table's cigarette. So that is something that I don't like that much. Number 10. The electronic devices are way too expensive in Turkey. And yes, that is so true. I mean, even telephones, TVs, anything that you think about electronic devices here in this country are way too expensive because the taxes are very high. And for example, in my case, in Mexico, I also had the chance to cross mostly every weekend to the US, and also I was able to buy many things like phones or cameras or whatever from the US, which was a bit more affordable than getting them from Mexico. Once I came to Turkey, I was like, okay, maybe the prices will not be that expensive. But no, seriously, I mean, like the prices here for those devices, they can even double or triple. And even if you want to renew your phone, which in my case that happened to me, I had to buy one here because I didn't have any option, because if you bring one phone from abroad, you need to pay an extra tax for that phone, which I think now it might be almost 3,000 liras just to register that phone in Turkey, because otherwise it will get blocked in 120 days. So that is something very interesting. So at the end of the day, you are forced to buy one phone from here, Turkey, which is much more expensive. So yes, I mean, if you are thinking that if Turkey is maybe affordable for that, let me tell you that it isn't. It's not. And the main reason for this is because, as you already know, like the Turkish lira is devaluating very fast against the US and even euro. So this is something that the price is already set in dollars, but of course the Turkish lira is just falling and falling every single second. I mean, so that is why people earning in Turkish lira, it's difficult to buy those products, because from one day to another they just get more and more expensive. So this is why it's difficult buying electronic devices, especially for people earning in Turkish liras. And number 11, this is my last dislike, and this is about the taxes. And yes, I'm not against paying taxes. Actually, I'm a very responsible taxpayer here and in Mexico, because in my country, I still paying taxes. And this is something that I don't mind. I mean, this is our responsibility, and I always do it. But here, Turkey is like the country of taxes, of the taxes, of the taxes, of the taxes. So this is something that I just don't understand. And taxes are quite high compared to many other countries, even compared to Mexico. And well, I mean, this is something that a great example is from YouTube, that we earn something, but we only have like half of the money left because of all the taxes of the taxes of the taxes. But well, This is something that we need to comply with. And another best example as well will be with cars. If you want, that's why cars here in Turkey are very expensive, because it's like if you're buying two cars. I don't know if you're in the US or even in Mexico, for example, because you need to pay a tax which is almost the same price as a car. So that's why a lot of people, I mean, they cannot afford a car because it is so expensive. I mean, you are just paying so many taxes with the cars. Another one is with registering foreign phones as well. You need to pay almost 3,000 liras if you're bringing a phone from other country. So yes, I mean, that is the little thing that also I don't like that much. I'm not against paying taxes. As I mentioned, I'm a very responsible taxpayer, but it's just like tax of the tax of the tax of the tax. So these were the things that I like and disliked about Turkey and Istanbul. And feel free to comment below what are your thoughts. And even if you visited Turkey just as a tourist, or if you're already living here, please feel free to comment below what are the things that you like and disliked. Maybe that way we can all share our experience and also have fun. Remember, I'm not slamming Turkey with this, because also many people think that, oh, she's slamming Turkey and this and that. No, it's not like that. I'm just sharing my thoughts, but I love this country. I mean, there are many more things that I love than I dislike. So this is just totally normal. I mean, normal people will like and dislike things. And before we finish with the video, once again, I would love to thank each one of our Patreons and YouTube members for giving us that extra support in making more videos for you every week on our channel. If you want to keep receiving more tips and recommendations about Istanbul and Turkey, then don't forget to subscribe to our channel. See you next time. Bye bye.